Yes, people, what's going on?
Yo.
We are some guys.
What guys?
Us guys.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Unorthodox fella, we're about
Hello.
to undertake a brand new journey, aren't we?
Yes, Mr. Haz, we are. What are we gonna do for them, Haz?
Well, today we're going to be giving you our first ever movie series review. I say movie series review because we're going to be doing movie reviews as well. But this is actually for a limited series.
Yep.
It's a drama and it's called Adolescence.
Adolescence, yeah.
Myself and an Orthodox fella, we are music reactors usually. So this is not new to us in respect to doing a review.
No. Of
It's
course,
more
we're reactors. You can go and see plenty of stuff over on his channel. He's had his channel established for how long now?
About 4 years.
About 4 years or so. I jumped on about 2.5 years ago onto the channel. I'd say we've probably got about 700-800 videos now.
Something like that, yeah.
So we're definitely not newbies in the game when it comes to reacting, but to films, of course, we've watched plenty of films, plenty of series, all of this. Oh, plane just passing over the top. But yeah, like we're like I say, we're not new to the game, but when it comes to the reviews for the movies, series, etc., yeah, relatively new when it comes to those. But
yeah,
we're hoping you guys are going to enjoy this. You know,
yeah.
it's gonna be a fun journey.
Make sure you hit subscribe because we are going to be delivering these to you on a frequent basis.
Of course.
Okay, cool. So obviously, got a little notepad purchased today.
Always good to do background research and all that.
Well, 100%. So I'm just going to read this information out as it's a review. If you don't know, this is important information, I believe. So, Adolescence Netflix limited series drama. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now it's been created by Stephen Graham and Jack Thorne, directed by Philip Barantini. The cast: Jamie Miller, son, is played by Owen Cooper. Mm-hmm. Eddie Miller, the dad, is played by Stephen Graham. Manda Miller, mum, Christine, give me a second, Tramarco. Like my mum's name nearly, bro.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
Lisa Miller, daughter, Emil Pease. Bryony Ariston is the child psychologist. Erin, and this is the name I don't really know how to say. So I think it's Doherty. So Erin Doherty.
It's an Irish name.
Okay. Yeah. D.I. Luke Bascom is Ashley Walters. D.S. Misha Frank is played by Faye Marseille. We're going to go through the episodes. There are 4 episodes in this limited series on Netflix. And then we'll just talk about it for a bit. We'll just, go through our thoughts and feelings on it.
Each episode. 4 episodes. All have a different approach.
Exactly. So shall we jump in? I think one thing is important to put out, because this is the case for all of them. Each episode was shot in one continuous take.
Yes.
Now, okay, let's start there. Whilst we were watching each episode, right, I'm conscious that I probably annoyed you, bruv.
He's that guy, yeah, you're watching a film and it's like, natta. It's like, bro, I'm trying to natta. But nah, I understood and I get your points because they were valid points throughout it. It was you were picking it up from a creative's point of view, as to put it.
I was looking at it and I was like, bro, I love the shooting style. Mm-hmm. Bro, I love the shooting style. One thing that it made me think about was Quentin Tarantino movies. So like I would go as far as to say maybe new generational people, they haven't got so much time for the long-winded dialogue and the long-winded shots. Whereas that's something that I love. I love it. You can really get lost in a scene when it's kind of like one long shot, you know?
Well, there are literal films made like that nowadays, isn't there? There was that battle, what was it called? The battle scene film, where it's just one whole battle scene, the whole film. And it's like, they keep you, rather than skipping through and, this happened, okay, cool, now we're moving on to the court scene or whatever, whatever it is, like, it keeps you gripped. It puts you in the situation. It makes you feel like you're really there, like part of the scenario,
Well, exactly. If you hear footsteps, myself and an Orthodox fella It's not us, clearly. We have a dog. Monty is here with us today. So that's that. But yeah, 100%. I agree. You know, the shooting style for me, it's almost like you're the third person with them. You know, it's very, it brings you into the moment.
How it like follows through, I don't know, going through the corridors and everything, and it follows the whole journey from, like, I don't know, the office to the police, the place where you not hand yourself and where you get taken into, you know, and
the cells,
like these type of and then into the cells, and like what the process of what goes on in between those times.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with episode 1. Now we'll just title it The Arrest, as this is like the crucial. This is the beginning. This is what sets it all off. Unorthodox fella, do you want to share your... Firstly, spoiler alert, okay? Spoiler alert.
If you don't want to know and you ain't watched it yet, do not watch this, because you're going to find out a lot of things about the film, the series, that you might not want to know so much right now.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
My first thoughts and feelings, I found it sort of... So they're sat there, they're having a little bit of banter in the car. You don't know, like, really, obviously this is set in the scene, this is set in the scenario. At this point, we don't know what's even going on. We know they're police officers, but we think they're just turning up for their day job, and, you know, they're going to go out and arrest a couple of people or go and search somewhere or whatever, But it's the way that they're there. He gets a phone call from his son, and it's just like, I can't remember exactly what he's saying, but like he's just talking to his son like a general, okay, yeah, like, I hope you're good, all of this sort of stuff. And then it's like the way it pans, and there's just numerous amounts of cars turn up behind. I'll let you take over the reins from here.
Well, no, I'm glad you pointed that out, because for me, this scene, I felt like, and I'm sure, obviously, we already know what the main message is within Adolescence, but for this scene, it felt like humanizing a police officer, humanizing the police force. Like, obviously, there's mixed views about the police from different people, but in this scene, we see Ashley Walters, Luke Bascombe, go from being a dad, making a joke. I think he burped at one point. Making a joke and being very human. And then
he farts because she's like, oh, that stings.
Exactly.
That stings. This type of thing.
Within the next moment, now he's leading.
Now it's business.
And he's leading an arrest. He's going in there. He's got multiple police cars with him, and that was brilliantly done. I really enjoyed that.
No, I did as well. It like you say, it brings the human element of it to it. Did I say elephant or element? I meant to say element. Yeah, cool. The human element to it. Because it's like, these guys, they are normal human beings. They do have normal lives, as to put it. They have kids. They have a household. They have this type of thing. They have stuff going on outside of... And I think, like, it actually, for somebody who might not like the police, as, you know, like you said, it's mixed views on these. It's like, they're just like anybody else turning up for their day job. They got everything going on outside of work, and then they got to go and do the serious police work. You know, whatever that is. You know, think of the things that they have to really deep it, and think of the things they have to deal with. They're dealing with murderers. They're dealing with robberies. They're dealing with rapists. They're dealing with people, like, all of it. They're dealing with all of that, and then on top of that, they've also got their own issues with their own families going on outside. I mean, he barely sees his son because his work takes so much of his time. Exactly, you know, exactly. You grow to learn throughout the series, like.
And then it leads into the arrest, you know. And I thought the whole thing was done really well. But I was paying attention to how the series wants you to feel, right? So at first, the immediate feeling most people will have is, man, like, there's so many police in. You just got into the home and it's a kid. He's a child. He's just in his bed with his children-style duvets and and like the dad's on the stairs and the daughter is on the floor next to the room, and the mum is screaming, and you just feel bad for this family.
Yeah, of course you do. You feel you again kind of put yourself in that position. You feel like you're there, and this is happening around you, kind of thing.
And a helplessness, because we're fathers. We know, like, we would do anything to protect our children. But Stephen Graham in this moment, and excuse me, I'm just going to refer to them, which is easiest for me. Okay, if you want, I can get the name back up. Stephen Graham is Eddie Miller. So Eddie Miller in this moment, you feel like you're him in some respects. You're like,
you feel defensive for the family.
Yeah, you want to protect them, but what's he supposed to do with hundreds of police officers?
Armed police, not just police, armed police. You know, guns. They batter the door, and then because he says, doesn't he? He's like, or the boy says, I can't remember. At one point in the series, he's like, "You took the door off."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you took the door off.
Exactly.
Like, but yeah, like feeling like that in that moment, it makes it feel very real. It makes you imagine you're there. You know, because like I said, we've got kids. Yeah, we've got kids. If my kid is being accused of something like that, you don't want to believe it.
No,
you don't want to believe it.
No.
And go on.
No, but sorry, that's very interesting, isn't it? Because throughout the episode, and you pointed this out, you see Eddie Miller begin to actually potentially he's clocking on now, and so and again, brilliantly done, you know.
Even things like, I didn't get in until a certain time last night. So like he wouldn't have known what time his son got in. But as a parent, you're going to be convincing yourself, no, he hasn't done this. Yeah. He's in it. The boy's in his room and he's like, Dad, I didn't do it. I didn't do it, Dad. Like all of this sort of stuff. And
he even asks him in the interview room.
Yeah.
He says, promise me, son.
Yeah.
You promise me and I'll believe you. But go on.
What I was going to say is that I think that's after he's seen the footage. Or is that before he's seen the footage?
Goodness me. I can't remember.
Because he sees the footage, and that's basically, as a parent, where your heart would drop and be like, okay, I've seen it now. But he still carries on trying to convince himself. Yeah. Trying to keep that little slim bit of hope. You know?
I feel like that happened before. The promise me, son. I think that happened before he saw the footage.
I feel like it's when he's just seen the footage and they're left in the room, aren't they? I think they're left in the room together. And then he says, promise me, just you tell me that you didn't do it and I'll believe you.
My recollection is it happened before. Because there's that powerful scene after he's seen it where, and this is another thing that's good to speak on, where Stephen Graham kind of turns away from Jamie.
Yeah. So I'm just conscious of the fact there's this licking noise in the background. It's the dog. He's grooming himself. I just want you to understand that. All right. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Exactly. Monty, would you, buddy? Good.
It's all right. You guys are gonna have to put up with it for now. You won't have this every time, but yeah, the scene where he turns away from it's a very powerful scene. It's like you realize it's dawned on him. It's basically what happens in that moment. You know?
Yeah, and it must be like, you know, it must be incredibly difficult to be in that position as the father of this child. It must be, you know, you remember the innocence behind this child, and now look, now there's the innocence. You can't tell yourself that this person is innocent anymore, you know, and that's got to be like a completely new lens to view your child in, you know, and that must be horrible.
When you've seen footage like that, and what he's done to the deceased, to put it, you know, it's it is very powerful, man. I feel. What do you wanna move on to the maybe what goes on further from that? Because obviously there's the lawyer involved. The lawyer comes in. He's obviously saying to, is it Jamie? He's saying to Jamie, don't when you're getting questioned, if you don't feel like if it's a 50-50 answer, just say no comment, this type of thing. Like again, it makes it very real because there's this 13-year-old boy who's obviously done what he's done, but at this moment we don't know that he's actually done it. It doesn't show you the footage.
Yeah.
It shows it from a further view, which I think is also to maybe because they couldn't show that on a series. I don't know, but too graphic.
And obviously, when the lawyer also said to the dad, he said, "Just be there for your son," because he's like, "I don't even know how to do this. I've never been in this position before. I've never even been in a police station before."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Okay, well, just be there as his dad for your son."
And his dad starts crying. His dad starts crying, but then obviously when he goes into the room again, he's got to man up.
Exactly.
Man up. It's a controversial subject, that one. But it's like he's got to be the dad. He's got to be the strong figure for his son, because his son's scared, obviously. Even though his son's done it, his son's still scared because he's realizing the consequences.
Well, exactly. And then obviously the episode, comes to an end with the realization, with the fact that they've got him. They've pretty much got him. They've got the video.
They've got the trainers that are in the video. The trainers that they say, they were too expensive because he'd thrown away all his other clothes, but they've got the trainers because they were too expensive to throw away. It's like, there you go. There's something that points it out. Obviously, it's also they're questioning him about friends of his, aren't they? And saying, what are they about? Like, who are they? What are they involved in? He's like, no comment. I'm trying to not get his mates or whatever involved. But then, I don't know, maybe we move it to the second episode because that's a good way to go into the second episode, because that's where you start realizing that it's not just his family that this affects, it's the whole school. The whole school affects about this, because all of the kids through social media and all of this, they've all heard about it. So obviously Ashley Walters, his name
Luke Bascom.
I can't remember his name, but he goes in with the female detective, and they're speaking to all the kids, and obviously the kids are saying, "Oh, what that girl that was murdered and all," but obviously you realize who that girl's best friend is, for example, and how it's affecting her. You realize who Jamie's best friends are and how it's affecting them. And all just
exactly. Just to point out, so especially in episode 2, because they are investigating the school at this point. So DI Luke Bascom is Ashley Walters, and DS Misha Frank is Faye Marseille. So it's the DI and the DS that are investigating the school and the students and everything. Again, with the one-shot take, brilliantly done. Very fluent, very smooth and fluent, but you almost feel like you're going down the corridor with them,
or in the playground, or
One thing that I liked about this episode, as you said, how it affects the school. And let me just jump to the end of this episode. Then we see how it affects. So it starts off, how does it affect the family? How does it affect the police force? Then we see, how does it affect the school? And at the end of that episode, you find out how it affects the community, as you get this panned out kind of drone shot of everybody else going and putting flowers down and stuff. It's so well done. But in this episode, in episode 2, we'll call it the school. You've got multiple things going on. One of the things is now you're looking at not the relationship of Eddie Miller and Jamie Miller. You're looking at the relationship of Luke Bascom and his son. That is that's now the primary father-son relationship that's being shown. Which is an interesting dynamic to go from one episode and it's like, okay, this father's trying to defend his son, not knowing what happened, and then the next one is like this father is investigating that very crime, and his son ultimately helps him understand
what's actually gone on,
what's going on,
and why Jamie was the way he was, and what had been happening because of the social media bullying. And the
what's it called? There's a culture.
The incel,
incel culture,
which I only learned about because of this program. You knew about it. I didn't know about it. So I learned about it because of this program.
Well, shout out Coffee House Crime, because that educated me on the incel culture.
I need to start watching a little bit more of that.
It's it, man.
You told me about that a few times before, but I mean, we could review some of that if you want us to. But you have the things. You have the parts in that episode where it's like the girl in the playground, the best mate of the girl who was killed.
Yeah.
She like beats up Jamie's best mate.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but beats up Jamie's best mate because she thinks that he knows something, or maybe she knows he knows something because later on in that episode he's running away from the police, and
it turns out that he's the one who gave the knife.
There we go. So like we said, spoilers, plenty of them. If you if that just gave it away, don't carry on watching again. But
it is crazy.
It's how it affects everything, because it's the disruption that it causes in the school.
Yeah.
You know, you've got these classes going on, and all of the kids are just talking about what's happened outside of it. You've got the teacher lady who's following them around, trying to be as helpful as possible. She's like, this is where it makes it realistic, quite kind of realistic again, because she's kind of annoying. Like she's hindering them unintentionally. Like she's asking not asking too many questions about like, oh, what happened? But can I do this? Can I do this to help? It's just like, just leave us alone.
Yeah.
Let us investigate. You know.
And then within this episode, you've also got the son being bullied because his dad's a police officer. At one point, they do something like oink oink.
Yeah, oink oink.
You know what I mean?
In the class.
Which goes back to what we said at the very beginning of this entire review about humanizing police officers, because they are human beings.
Yeah. But
the other view is they're pigs.
Yeah.
You see? So that's also a theme within this. Not the strongest theme, but a theme within this. I want to touch on. I felt. I don't know if you felt like this. I don't know if you felt like this, but I felt like we had lost a lot of the childlike innocence in the school episode. There was a lot more. Yeah, whatever, miss. Yeah, go on, miss. I don't care, sir. I don't care.
Yeah.
Punch. Like, all of that kind of like, oh, he's just
Yeah, sorry. I knew what you were saying, but I now more know what you're saying. So from the first episode, you're more sympathetic towards Jamie and the childish innocence.
Childlike
Whereas,
innocence.
yes, you then see the other side, which is not so innocent, which is the children basically misbehaving. But it's because it's bringing in all different backgrounds, all different types of personalities. A school holds 300 to 1,000 students.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different personalities going on. There's people that are trying to listen. There's people that are trying to be purposely intrusive, maybe because they have that at home. So then they come into school with a grudge and they take out on others. But you've got like all these other kids who are talking sort of badness and all of this. Yo, they better not find out about what this is. All of this stuff.
We even had one of the boys saying, "So you were popular at school." Talking to Ashley Walters.
Well, that was the best friend. He's the one that gets beat up, and then he's sat in the matron's room or whatever. Yeah. And he says, "Oh, so you were popular?" He's asking these type of questions. Yeah. And Ashley Walters was like, "Yeah, I was. You know, like exactly after I got rid of the afro and all of this sort of stuff."
Yeah. And then he said, and this is crucial. He then says, "How are you with the ladies?" Now, what do we find out in cell culture? Yeah. What do we find out about, as the series goes on and takes us into episode 3? We'll get to that shortly. Just trying to make sure we cover everything in episode 2.
Well, obviously, he's talking to him, and to an extent, from the human side of things, he's probably trying to build a relationship with this boy, so that he can understand more where this boy's coming from and what he has to do with it. Yeah. Then obviously they go away. I can't exactly fully remember. We watched 4 episodes in one night, so there's a lot to remember here. Yeah. But it's like he goes away, but then he comes back to the classroom. He's like, "I need to talk to this lad," and he jumps out the window. Yeah. And then it's the big chase scene. Yes. Why are you running? Why are you running? Stop running! Da, 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 da. Obviously, this is I remember you saying you're like, "That kid's fast, man." Yeah, bro. He was like a whippet. And like he's running. Obviously, gets caught up eventually. Yeah. Because he gets trapped in a corner, and Ashley's like pulling him about. "What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you running away from me?" He's not having it anymore. He's gone mad at this point. He's been very delicate in his approach. Now he is not having it. And that shows again his human temperament. Yeah. He's like, "Yo,
I know you're hiding something. Somebody has died. We need to know the answers now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Obviously the way you find out that eventually you find out, because even then he sort of like stomach stutters and tries to, and then he's like, it was my knife. And it's
well,
like, oh,
exactly. And
he says like, I didn't give it him to kill her. I didn't do all of this stuff. But
there's one thing we can't walk over here, and to be honest with you, we'll keep it brief on this one, but we do have to mention it. They brought up Andrew Tate.
Oh yeah.
In episode 2.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest with my thoughts and feelings. I feel like that wasn't necessarily the smartest thing to do.
It's kind of chucking him under the bus.
It's chucking him under the bus, but also you're now. Let's say that for the sake of this program, it's to help people get a stronger message about what the program's about. If you then almost say, okay, if you like Andrew Tate, go away, and you're saying Andrew Tate is the problem, then all of the fans who you're trying to get across to now have turned it off. If you want them to listen, but now you're pushing away all of his fans, but you're saying that they're the problem. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm not going to stand to sit here and defend or attack his name. But it feels like that's what they've done, is they've put him in a pigeonhole. And that's, I just don't think it was. The problem is much bigger
than just putting it on one man.
Yes.
The problem is much bigger than that. And that didn't feel, it felt current. It didn't feel like it maybe was the greatest thing to do. But they did it. And it still doesn't take away from me how good the series was. It's just worth pointing that out.
Should we go into series episode 3?
Yes, very briefly, just to make sure we've covered everything. The final scene, Ashley Walters and his son are now going for chips. And that's wonderful.
And that's, again, the human thing, is like, he's seen his son today. He knows there's a madness going on. His son has helped him out as well. So he's probably feeling like, I need some time with my son. Like, this is absorbing every single waking minute of me. I need to get back to my human roots, which is as a father, and spend a bit of time with my son. So let's go for some chips.
And that's kind of the point, isn't it? That's kind of what I felt like the series was doing. It wanted parents to actually just say, nothing else really matters. Let's go talk to our children and make sure they're good.
The family element
back to things. Exactly. Okay, episode 3, the therapy session. The child psychologist. Now, I will say, so there was great acting throughout this, but let's not overlook Bryony Ariston is the character. So Erin Doherty, her acting, as well as Jamie Miller's, Owen Cooper, within the whole thing was great, but within this one episode, the way that they held it together, the way that they delivered every single emotion throughout this was brilliant.
From the start, it's like she comes in and there's that annoying police officer sat in the office watching the cameras and everything, and he's talking and he keeps talking and she's just looking. She's just like what is she? Because there's a part in the episode where she's just looking at the screen and observing what Jamie's actions, his body movement is like, and this guy is just in her ear, just talking, and she's just zoned. And like,
she has a way.
I'm sat there like, when are you gonna tell him to fuck off? Basically,
yeah.
Like, when are you gonna tell him to just go away? But she doesn't. She's just zoned. She's
just
in.
I felt like there was a scene. She has a way. I'm not going to throw guesses out there that she has, like, some kind of diagnosis of something, but she has a particular way. The reason I say that is because I have OCD, and within that, I have particular ways of doing things. The way that she did what she did, especially at the beginning, was there a scene with the vending machine? There was something.
Yeah, she gets the hot chocolate,
and
she has marshmallows.
It was her way.
Marshmallows into the hot chocolate.
Everything was her way, and that's brilliant. That's the way it should be, right? But that was an interesting point. So we enter into this episode, and obviously Jamie Miller is now coming in to the building, right? And this interview,
No. He's 7 months. He's been in there 7 months.
No, I mean coming into the room. Sorry,
coming
not
into
the building.
room. Right.
And for me, and this interview for me was like brilliant because we went through multiple different emotions. You know, he went through his charming.
Yeah.
He went through. I don't want to talk about my like kind of like a rude child. Like I don't want to talk about whatever. Who are you? You know.
He's also a celebrity, a little bit of a celebrity at this point.
Yeah.
And so that kind of ego side of his is, playing a part, especially at 13 years old. You're seen as like a bad boy.
Yeah.
A celebrity. You're seen as like you probably feel a bit like iconic. Like, look, all these people are watching me. They're on Facebook and all of this, and they're watching me. My family's name now is like. It's like a legacy. Okay, it's not a good legacy, but to him, it's like, yeah.
Exactly. What I found interesting is that a couple of times he got very angry. He got very angry. He got up. He was like in her face. And the first time she left the room, she didn't leave fully. She came back.
No, that's the time when she goes to the camera room.
Yeah.
And she watches. She just stands there watching it whilst Jamie's still sat in the room. She's watching his body movement. Exactly. She's watching how he's acting. She's doing all of this.
Yeah. And so she goes back in, and then obviously there's more kind of conversation and what I just want to get to this point because this point is where it all erupts. This point is where you're like, okay, something is really wrong here. He starts the shouting thing again, but then he says something like, "So what? You don't like me?
Yeah.
You're not what? You're not into me? What?" And then think about it. This is a child. He's an adult, but he's like, "So what? You don't like me?"
Yeah. But it's not even. You don't like me like that. Just say that you like me.
Yeah.
Just say that you like me. Just say that you don't find me annoying. This type of thing.
Yeah.
Just say that you like me. Because that obviously is leading off of the second episode where this incel stuff and there's like various emojis. Yeah. This is something we forgot to mention about in the second one. Is like the police officer's son tells him about these different emojis, which red means this and purple means this and yellow means this. Yeah. And it's like obviously this incel thing is like quickly, let's break this, if you don't know, because I didn't know up until this series what incel was.
All right, we will do that, but just quickly, in the third episode we're currently talking about, I actually felt like he was saying it like that.
Oh, as in like,
oh, you don't like me? Because he told her earlier in that episode, he was like, girls, they don't like me. They're not interested.
I'm ugly.
Exactly. Yeah. So when he said it, that's how I took it. So I don't know. But yeah, so incel, to our understanding, obviously we're not huge experts on incel, but to our understanding, it is Monty, are you trying to get involved, bruv?
Wants to be in this.
Are you trying to get involved, bruv? Anyway, to our understanding, Monty, go ahead and lie down. To our understanding, incel is so one of the good things to point out is like 80-20, right? Which is 80% of women are only interested in 20% of men. There's a good place to start when you're explaining incel, because it's the belief that women in general, they're just not interested in you, you know, in men. Like you don't, in 80% of men, like you're part of the 80% of men. Women that don't like you, they think you're ugly, they're not interested, they'll walk all over you. It's a hatred towards women.
It forms a hatred within the men who are facing this, as boys, as older men, whatever it is.
Well, exactly.
And it creates a hate culture.
It does create a hate culture
towards women.
It definitely does. And obviously, you know, so this is based on a couple of real events that Stephen Graham had seen. But like incel culture, people are actually committing crimes as well all the time. Like in Coffee House Crime, I saw maybe like 7 of these episodes of incel people, men, who have gone and killed men, women, loads of different people because of their rage and their anger, and they're so sick of not being wanted, liked, looked at, you know. And so this is kind of like a vague description of incel, you know. Just to bring us back to episode 3, for me, like I said, the main thing was the ending when it all exploded, because that was where you see
really like,
that's
okay,
how
this is what's actually going
that's
on.
the point that he got to when he did what he did. You know,
because it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Because when they're talking in the room, it goes from like they're having a laugh. She's come in, she's done a therapy session before, she's now come in for the second or the third one, and it's like they're having a laugh. He's like, she's like, I remembered your hot chocolate with the marshmallows on top. They're like talking about their previous sessions, and everything's light mood. Everything's like, you know, he's calm and all of that. And then it's, he has the first incident where he kind of blows up, but he hasn't blown up fully at this point, but he blows up. She walks out the room. She could walk away, but she doesn't. She watches, observes him, and then comes back in. And then they sit, and he's like, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have shouted. I shouldn't have got like that. I've calmed down now. And then they start talking again. And then, boom, something else triggers him. And then that's when, where he blows up fully.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to point out in this episode is, for me anyway, is he didn't like talking about his relationship with his dad.
Yeah, she kept asking questions.
He's like, it's not, but he kept saying like, what, you're just trying to blame my dad? You're just trying to blame my dad? You know? And that's a whole nother conversation. I think we can get onto that in episode 4, because that's where it all concludes. And these kind of conversations we'll have. But yeah, that's it for me on episode 3, man. I just thought it was brilliantly acted the whole way through.
Yeah,
brilliantly.
It was genuinely impeccable acting. It really sold it to you, like that. This is the counselor. This is Jamie. Like this is. It just really clarified a lot of things with you, and how it actually, again, going back to the human side of it and the following behind, going from the hallway to the office to the camera room to the whatever. It's just like, this is actually what happens. This isn't like, oh, we'll skip the boring parts. No, we want the boring parts, because the boring parts make this story feel so real. Yeah.
And in the end, when
just Jamie... 2 seconds, I need to go blow my nose.
Okay. And in the end, when Jamie is taken out, and obviously the child psychologist is just sat there, and she's got her head in her hands, and that shows her human side. That's like that shows the person behind the job title. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, say that again.
When at the end, when the child psychologist is kind of in the office, Jamie's gone out now, and she's like,
oh yeah, she's really like.
It shows more than the job title now. We're seeing her behind the job title.
Well, like his dad, when his dad was crying, she at the time, to get the answers she needed and to get him to get to that point where she could actually see, okay, yes, he's incel. He's very much, this is him. That bringing out his real personality, because a lot of 75% to 80% of that scene, that whole scene when they're in the room, is fake. Yeah, he's being fake. He's not showing his real colors. His true colors come out when she manages to crack him as a psychologist. That is her job. Exactly. And so then it's obviously the moment where she's just like, really, it's all now hitting. Like, because we've missed one major part, which is where he gets mad and he's literally like that at her. It made me jump. Generally, it made me jump. When I was watching, I was like, rah, like I thought she was about to get whacked up. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's very interesting, isn't it? The way that you watch it all unfold throughout the episode. It's really interesting. And yeah, you're right to point that out. Another thing to point out, special mention to episode 1, and we'll just very briefly, when Jamie says to Luke Basco, "What, is she dead?" Yeah. We have to point that out, because how do you know she's dead?
That was a heck of a giveaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, cool.
Into episode
4. Episode 4. What did I put this down as? Episode 4, the conclusion. So
this episode is more where you see how it actually affects the family.
Yes.
Because this is another thing, just to very briefly point out. The first episode is day 1 or the day after. The second episode is, I think, day 3. The third episode is 7 months later, and then day 4. The fourth episode, I can't remember how many months, but it's months and months later. Like it's just before his court date.
Yeah.
You're right. Like that, isn't it?
You're right, exactly.
So it's like the progression of time and what's happened in between.
Let's talk about highlights quickly to make sure we don't miss anything. So obviously, it's Eddie Miller's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So his wife, and now she's more prominent in it again. Amanda Miller, played by Christine Trumacher. I think that's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
She is making breakfast.
Yeah.
You know, she's trying to make breakfast,
mm-hmm.
which is actually one of the bits of humor you get from it. Is like it's like way into the afternoon when finally breakfast is made, and that's brought up as a kind of like, you know, soften the blow on everything else that's going on throughout the episode. But I found that relationship interesting because they're trying to support each other.
Yeah,
they're trying to be there for each other as the figureheads of this family. And they're trying to do normal things like celebrate a birthday.
Yeah. Making plans to go to the cinema.
Yeah. Making it normal for the daughter as well.
Yeah.
You know? And you just see how bloody impossible it feels for them to do that. You know, it just seems impossible. And then they've got the people spray painting Eddie Miller's work van with the word nonce.
You've got the various neighbours who say, they haven't seen anything yet. There's this one woman who seems to always know everything that's going on, who stood across the road. And there's a few times he's like, I can't remember her name, let's call her Doris. He's like, yeah, Doris, just keep looking, Doris. Yeah, it's all right, mate. Just, you know.
Yeah.
But you don't know who did this to my van.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a lovely day, Doris. Anyway,
and then he buzzed under his breath. That's joke. And so does the wife later on. Cool. So after that, let's save the day. Yeah, they reach this point where they keep saying to each other, "Save the day," or "the day is saved," or something along these lines.
Mm-hmm. We'll go to the cinema. We'll dress up nicely. We'll go to the cinema. We'll go and get some breakfast. We'll go and get a Chinese. This type of thing. You know, just trying to make the most of it. Obviously, then they get in the van, and then it has the scene of them driving in the van. The whole and this is again where it's not cutting out the boring bits.
Yeah,
this is the full journey. It takes like 5-10 minutes, but it's the full journey of them sat in the van, singing along. The mum and dad talking about how they met each other and all of this, whilst the daughter's in the middle and they're talking about their first kiss, and she's like just general normal conversation. And it puts it and makes it so real. It's
so real, and it's brilliant. I believe we live in a generation today where everything needs to be rushed, apparently, and this is one of the beautiful things about this series, man. They didn't rush a moment. You felt everything, you know. That was brilliant. So, like you were saying, on the way, they're going to get paint, basically, to cover up this thing. Isn't it interesting? Because when they get there, they ask somebody working in the shop, and he's like, "Yo, you're the dad of Jamie Miller." Man, I feel like Jamie, like, he's supporting Jamie.
Well, he literally says, he's like, if you were to make a GoFundMe page, lots of us would support him.
Exactly. And then you see Stephen Graham, Eddie Miller, he's like, what? Yeah,
what's going on here?
He's not happy to hear this news. He's like, what is the world coming to? Mm-hmm. And then you have him going out, he picks up the bike, throws the bike off the people.
Obviously, he sees the people so he had chased seen the couple of lads. They had come past and be like, nonce, in his van. And he's like, was this you? Was this you? And then he sees those same kids and he's like, they're following me around. So he goes and confronts them. Obviously, these are kids and he's a grown-up. So he's not thinking at this point. But if he'd have done proper damage to that kid, he's also going to jail.
Yeah.
And this is, again, the human side of it, where it affects more than just the person who's done it.
Yeah, because he grips them up. He does grip one of them up, but then he lets him go, kind of throws him, which actually was the grace in that moment. Because even though he threw him, he could have done much worse.
Yeah,
he threw him. He got the bike. He threw the bike. You know, and it's like.
And then he comes back over to his van, gets the paint, dashes it on his van, rather than painting it over and all of that. He just
dashes it. It goes on the window,
all over the window screen, everything. There's the security officer comes out. You're gonna clear that up? Who are you, bro? Just move off, man. Get away from me.
He has lost it.
Like
he's lost it.
That's where you see the moment of how long he's kept it together for. But on his birthday, this happening, that happening, you know.
And then they get in the van.
Yeah.
And the phone call comes through
from Jamie.
I'm going to say guilty.
I'm going to change my plea to guilty.
And he doesn't speak back. After that, he doesn't speak back.
But he thinks that he's just calling his dad. He doesn't know his mum and sister are in the van as well.
Yeah.
So obviously then his mum breaks the silence because his dad's still being silent.
Yeah.
Breaks the silence. Hey, Jamie, you all right? Oh, mum. You're there. I thought it was just dad. Because obviously his dad is the guy he chose from the start to be in the interview with him and stuff like that, which is something we missed, but probably should have picked up on. But at the same time, it's like he obviously, out of all of that, his dad is the one he trusts the most with this type of situation because he's the father figure of the household. I'm not even going to go into that right now, but
and then it's acceptance. The dad reaches a point of acceptance. He's like, he even says to the wife, okay, cool. You know what? The main thing for me in this episode, I want to get to that point now. The scene between him and his wife, Manda Miller.
This is where this is where it really hits.
And it's not like that.
Yeah.
It's the deep conversation that they have.
We did all right, didn't we? We did parents. Like
this scene, probably the best scene I've seen on TV in 2025. Immense. The acting, the dialogue, the emotion. You just felt like that like it was happening in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, and then they lead into the questions of, you know, did I do this? And then did I do this?
Yeah, not the blame game, but the sort of, is it my fault? Was it your fault? Because it's not, they're not just saying, was it my fault or was it my, they're saying, was it your fault?
Yeah.
You could have done, but these sort of questions come up when you're in that situation and you're like, why has our son done this? Why, how has he turned out this way? But he always used to spend all his time in his room and we thought he was safe on his computer and all of this. And this is where the real human element of it, having our own children, you guys having your own children out there, having family members, whatever, like they're saying he was in his room. We thought he was protected. We thought he was safe. Him being at home should have been safe.
Jeez, I'm glad you pointed that out. It's true.
It really hits reality of, look, there's a good side to social media. There's lots of pluses to it, but there's also the dark side, like there is with everything in life.
No, 100%, 100%. And if you're not, you know, if you're still a youthful mind, hearing some of the things you can hear on the internet can absolutely destroy your mental health.
Yeah.
You know, I like the thing that they point out when they're like, he says, how did our daughter grow up to be like this? And then the wife says, same way we raised Jamie.
Yeah. Exactly.
Isn't that flipping?
But scary.
Isn't that a moment?
Yeah.
Doesn't it make you think the same way?
You raise both the kids the same way, but they turn out different.
Woo!
Things happen.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, it really was. And I think that scene of the mum and dad in the room is a hard-hitting scene. But what's also really hard is the end scene where he goes into his boy's room for the first time since everything happened.
Yeah.
And leaving the teddy. I've got to run. I have to my nose quickly. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. When he puts the teddy into the bed, and you know it was him and Jamie in the interview room. He was the one chosen, and now he's at the end of this situation. Now his son is gonna say guilty. He's going down, and yeah, carry on.
Well, yeah, it's the scene where he puts the teddy in the bed. Like he's just there looking around the room. You know, his innocent son's room, to what his son was, innocent. This kid that we raised, all of those years that we raised him, and he was in here. But it's also being in that room. That's where all the worst stuff was happening. Like, what led to his son doing that, and it's being in that room and knowing we thought he was safe in here, but then also having that thought in your head, this is where everything was going on. It's like a sudden drop of the heart, the goosebumps, the chills, and he just breaks down on the bed, breaks down. And I said to you at that point, I said, there's not many times that someone cries like that in their life. And Stephen Graham, he does it so well.
Brilliantly. So
well.
And then he says, I'm sorry I let you down, son. And then you just you're left with the I think it was a monkey teddy just laying in the bed.
Yeah, sad. Really sad, man. Really
very sad.
But very impactful.
So there's our review for episode 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's conclude. So I want to conclude. Do you mind if I conclude first?
Go ahead.
So I want to conclude by saying how it impacted my thought process. You know, I'll start by saying the acting in this was fantastic. Everybody played their role and did it to a huge degree. It's not just like they turned up, played their role. They did it in a way that you felt like it was them. You know, I just want to special mention the scene where Stephen Graham is watching his son be stripped, searched, and the camera's on Stephen Graham's face the whole time, and I remember saying to you, UF, I feel like he's his actual dad in real life, bro.
Yeah.
So massive special mention to the acting in this series. I feel like this series is meant to bring awareness to parents to speak to their kids. You know, for me, I strongly believe that talking to your kids is important, man. You know, finding out what's going on. How are they feeling? What's going on that they may not feel as comfortable necessarily to say? How can you get them to communicate this? Because they might want to say, but they don't know how. One thing that I've done before with my daughters is, if I've said, you know, is it hard, like if it's hard for you to communicate it because, you know, sometimes they don't want to start like breaking down, and it's like as soon as you say it, it's like tears come flooded, which by the way is fine. My children know they can cry, but something that they do is sometimes they'll go, "Can I write it down?"
Yeah.
And I say, sure, absolutely, go write it down, and then we can look at it. And I think sometimes you get to a point where, even as an adult, you can have a conversation with someone. I did this with you the other day, with something that was something really sad happened, and we were talking, and then I just stopped talking.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if I kept talking, I'm going to start crying.
Take a couple of breaths, sip a glass of water, something to just, you
exactly.
know, kind of take your mind off it for that split second. It might just bring you a little bit down. Okay, my emotions are calming down a bit now. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, the conclusion, the message I got from this series, Adolescence, is make sure you're talking to your kids and make sure that they know that they can talk to you. And, you know, whatever techniques that you need to use to help them to communicate with you, do it. It doesn't matter. Just help them to communicate with you, man, because you're their rock. You're their example. If you're not there for them to talk to you, and you're their parent, they have no one to talk to.
For real. I hear that. I mean, are you?
I'm done.
So I would say for me, there was three things really. There was first of all the fact of that it didn't take away any of the boring moments. I think that's so impactful. because you get to see everything. You get to see Ashley Walters go and stand whilst he's in the middle of this murder investigation in the halls of the police station, and he's on the phone and he's calling about what's going on later on that evening and this sort of stuff. Let me just 2 seconds. Yeah, so I keep getting calls. Fucking guys tonight, apparently. But the second one is I went away from this series and I messaged about 5 or 6 different people that I know are parents and this stuff, and I said, you need to watch this series. You need to understand what is actually going on, because this could affect any of our kids. Like it really could, or any of our nephews, nieces, anything like that. You know, it could affect anyone it can affect older people as well. But this particular scenario where it's messaging and social media and all of that, it's kids, you know, and it's harder to sway an adult's mind as well. You know, when you get to 25, 30 and beyond, in most cases, I feel like you're a little bit more sound in yourself and you understand, you know, the bigger world. Whereas a 13-year-old kid full of hormones and only thinking about girls or boys, if you're, you know, whatever, like that's it's gonna make you feel that way. And the third thing is this particular, just these type of series, these type of programs where it's, I learned about what incel was. I didn't know. I never knew until this series. Yeah. So now knowing that, I know now what to look out for in mine. Yeah. And with other friends, kids and stuff, you know, like, so yeah. Exactly. I mean, I don't know if this would be an ongoing thing where we rate it, but I would definitely give it a 10 out of 10. 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10, whatever. Like, there's nothing, I would say so. I don't think there's anything they missed with this. No, I would say so. I think it was brilliant. I think it's impactful. I think it's needed. You know, and to be honest with you, we can easily do this review for another 6 hours and break down each thing individually. But I feel like we've spoken a lot on this. So, people, we ask you to add to the conversation in the comment section. Please. Let us know. We want to know your opinions. Your opinions. What you think. Let us know the feelings that you had from this when this finished. Let us know, did you immediately do what a lot of people I'm sure did and go and check on your children? Let us know in the comment section. Thank you very much for joining us on our first movie/series review. We're very grateful for you. Make sure you hit subscribe. And until next time, we've been Some Guys. What Guys? Us Guys.